You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And if you missed it, which you might have or you might not have, depending on how much you're on your phone, I guess, Canada has officially dropped their... Sorry, I'm just readjusting my stand here. Okay, we should be good. It shouldn't be falling over like it was last time. Canada has officially announced their roster for the November window, which is the final window, international window, I should say, of the year. So, quite sad, if you ask me, because I love getting to cover these guys. As a club enjoyer, like, as you know, I'm a Chelsea fan. I hate it because I don't want these guys going off and, getting hurt with the country and whatnot and what have you. But I do love it because I get to see Canada and I get to watch Canada, and it's great because I love these guys and I love this team. So, double-edged sword, if you will. But we're going to look at the positives today. We're going to talk about this from a Canadian perspective, not from a club-level fan perspective. And we will talk all about this squad that Jesse Marsh has picked. Not too many changes from the last one out, if we're being honest. Just a few new additions as well, which I will talk about as we get to them. I will kind of start this off by looking at some omissions. I usually do omissions as we're kind of going through the positions, like, if there was a midfielder, and then I'll be like, we should have brought blah, 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 blah. My own impression of myself. How did you like that? But this time I just felt like there was a lot of guys that I felt could have maybe been on here. And it's no slight to the guys that were selected. It never is. I never intend any disrespect to the boys that are selected. As you well know, if they put on the jersey and they go out into the field and give us 100%, I'm not going to sit here and be like, get them, get them gone. I will still critique them, obviously, as that is kind of the point of some of these game-by-game breakdowns. But once they're on the field, I'm cheering for them. I'm their fan. You know what I mean? So it's nothing against the guys that were selected. There was just some players that I thought maybe could have been in with a shout. So I'm just going to go through some of those guys as I open my notes app, scrolling through the endless amounts of apps. Drop your least favorite app in the comments. I have so many that I hate. Anyways, let's get into it. So I just wrote all these names down. So I'm going to try to reorganize them literally just as I'm speaking about it. Firstly, we're going to start with the goalkeepers. I'm a fan of, at this point we know it's going to be Crépeau and St. Clair as long as they're both healthy, and then there's always that third choice. We'll get to the third choice that we did in fact bring when we get to the goalkeepers. But right now, some guys I thought maybe could have been in with a shout. James Pantemis, I think he's always in with a shout just because, as I always say in basically every podcast we do, as much as I think Maxime Crépeau, the Canadian Buffon, should be our number one, I do find it extremely strange that Crépeau and Pantemis are both basically 50-50-ish for Portland Timbers. And then when the Canadian squad gets dropped, it's always Crépeau and almost never Pantemis. He was included in the last squad, but then ended up having to go out because of injury. It happens, right? But I just find it very interesting because even at club level right now, it's Pantemis that's playing over Crépeau. So, how is it Crépeau making the squad and not Pantemis? Once again, I say that as someone that thinks Crépeau should be our number one. Number two, Sirois. He had a decent season in a poor Montreal side. Let's be honest. Montreal, they're going to need a big time rebuild, as two of our three Canadian MLS teams will. Yes, I'm talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps will need a rebuild. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, it's Montreal and TFC. But yeah, Sirois, I think that there is talent there. I think that he's a solid goalkeeper. But, it also is a battle for third third choice, so I mean, do they mind not getting selected? Who knows? My other one is Garavan. I know he doesn't play a whole ton for TFC, but he was selected in the last window when Pantemis went down. So, Garvin. I do think that he could be in with a shout here. But obviously Jesse Marcy is the other way, and that is totally okay. Looking at defenders, yes, chalk off Kyle Hebert. You knew I was going to mention him. I'm just a big fan of him. And I do know last Canadian episode where I talked about a squad breakdown, Kyle Hebert was not really playing a whole ton. That didn't really change towards the end of the season. I do think a new club may benefit him, maybe a TFC. They will be looking for defenders, and Hebert really can play all along the back line and do it pretty well. I just think that he's a valuable guy to have in the squad just with how versatile he is, but I do understand him not playing a whole ton of club level doesn't really help his case for being in here. So that one I kind of look at and I go, okay, sorry. And also, I also forgot to mention Tom McGill as one of our goalkeepers. He fits in with the other goalkeepers as I make myself cough. Oh, sorry. We're getting over a cold still. Another defender, Jamie Knight-LaBelle. I'm a fan of Jamie Knight-LaBelle. I think he is quite good. I think that there's a lot of potential there. He's been playing at club level as well a bit. So for him not to be here, I think kind of sucks, especially because these are some games where I think he could really get game time in the absence of Moise Bombito. I think it would be really nice for Knight-LaBelle to get in there, and we can see what he can do alongside of Derek Cornelius. But obviously that's not going to be the case. And with windows running out before the World Cup, I don't want to say he's missed the plane, but I would be a little bit concerned, I think, just because he's not getting selected in these friendlies where we're down our starting center back. Luke DeFougereau also wasn't selected through injury. I don't want to say I think that you're kind of seeing where he is in the pegging order at the moment. But in a sense, I think you are kind of seeing where he is in the pegging order at the moment. There, of course, was a new center back brought in. Once again, we will get talking about him as we get to him. But yeah, I think if I'm Jamie Knight-LaBelle, I'm feeling a little bit hard done by, and also thinking, okay, well, where am I in the World Cup plans? What are we thinking here? That's what I think. But maybe Jesse Marsh has talked to him. I don't know all the intricate details. I'm just analyzing this as a fan. But yeah, we'll move into the midfield. Two midfielders who I thought had decent seasons as well, who are kind of blasts from the past. Samuel Piette. I'm always going to mention Samuel Piette. I just truly think he's probably our most disrespected player. Obviously, even if he was selected, he probably couldn't play because he's still recovering from a surgery that he had at the end of the season. So, okay, fair enough. But we all know even if he was healthy, he wouldn't have been selected here anyways. Let's be real. And a shout here. Don't go crazy. Mark Anthony Kaye. I thought he had a decent season with the Earthquakes. He ended the season pretty well. I know the program feels like it's kind of moved on from Mark Anthony Kaye, but maybe in with a little bit of a shout of being on the bubble per se. I won't argue too hard in favor or against him, but I think he was worth a shout. Justin Smith as well. Currently playing his trade in La Liga. He's one of our dual citizens, and since this feels like the window of dual citizens, him not being selected kind of is like, okay, maybe there is no plan with Justin Smith. And once again, I don't know the intricate details, but he is a dual that we've been keeping our eye on for the last year or two. It feels like sooner or later we're either going to have to pull the trigger on bringing him or not bringing him permanently. That's how I feel about Justin Smith. Another blast from the past here, Liam Fraser. He has started life well in Reading. So to not have him, I think kind of sucks. I do think there's a player in Liam Fraser. I mean, I could be the only one that feels like Liam Fraser could be in with a shout with these things. But Liam Fraser, I do think there's a quality player in there, and that's the hill I'm dying on in this episode. Liam Fraser, I think, still serves a purpose in the Canadian squad if we were to say give him a chance. Moving up to our attackers, just a couple here. Theo Corbeanu, I've been singing praises for him all season with TFC. I think he was TFC's best player. I do know that I have also always caveated that with it. That is quite the low-ish bar. But I do still think Theo Corbeanu had a good season with TFC. Like, he did. I think he did. He's done enough to get called up and at least be given a look at. I don't think it's going to happen in this current state of the Canadian squad with some of the players that are getting called up at the moment. But I do think that there is a player there, and I think that he has shown his quality in a unquality TFC side. So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed not to see him at all this year with the men's national team. But disappointed, but I guess not surprised. Final two strikers. Daniel Jebison, I think he started life off really well with Preston North End. He's been a very interesting guy, I think, to look at for the Canadian men's national team. As I've said in a couple episodes, I feel like when he confirmed that he'd be going with the Canadian men's national team, it felt like, okay, he's gonna be on the plane for Qatar for the World Cup 2026. And now it doesn't feel like it feels like he's actually quite well off it at the moment, which is kind of strange to me because he has started his life in Preston quite well. He's done more for Preston than he did with Bournemouth last season, and he got called up with Bournemouth when he wasn't really doing a whole ton with Bournemouth, and now he's playing constantly for Preston. Has started life pretty well, and now he's not getting called up. A little strange. Of course, still a long season and still a bit of time for the World Cup, so I'm not saying he's not making it, but I'm just saying, just something I noticed. Another kind of in with a shout here is Jason Russell-Rowe. He's had a pretty decent season with Columbus. I think he offers us something. He can also kind of play off the wing as well if you need winger depth. So yeah, I'll throw in Jason Russell-Rowe. Some dudes missing. I keep on referring to them as dudes. We're just bros. Some guys missing through injury: Jacob Schaffelberg, Luke DeFougerel, as we all know, Alistair Johnston, Moise Bombito, Alfonso Davies, and Liam Miller. Shout out to Liam Miller Hive. We are down. We are not out, though. All those guys are kind of, were expected to make. Well, Schaff and Luke DeFougerel were kind of surprising when they weren't listed. And then Jesse Marshall said they're both dealing with minor injuries, so it makes sense not to bring them. The other four, Johnston, Bombito, Davies, and Miller, we kind of knew they weren't going to be called up. They're all dealing with injuries right now. So just get well soon, boys, and let's get us to the World Cup. And before we get into the squad proper, there was also a man called in for training because he's thinking of invoking his one-time switch from Mexico to Canada. I can't not acknowledge it, and I can't not talk about it. It is Flores. A year or two ago, I'm kind of foggy on the timeline when he selected Mexico over Canada. He selected Mexico over Canada. You're well within your rights to do that. You do you, baby. What I hate now is Canada kind of going back like a desperate ex. You know what I mean? Well, we didn't get him the first time around. Let's try and get him again. And I'm not going to be the first to say this because I saw this kind of same sentiment being echoed on Twitter and Instagram of Flores kind of feels like he just got dumped by his girlfriend, and now he's kind of hitting up his old flame at like 3 a.m, hitting him up with the "hey, you up" kind of thing. And where Canada is the "hey, you up" kind of thing, where the old flame and Mexico is his ex-girlfriend, because it hasn't gone to plan for him from Mexico, and that's fine. I just don't like the fact that that Canada is being treated as a second choice, and that we just seem to be okay with that. And maybe that's why I'm not a coach. Maybe that's why I'm not a manager. Maybe I just have too much pride for my own good, and that's fair. What I think bothers me most about this is we have a player that is playing better than him in basically a similar position and league, Santiago Lopez. He was called up last year for one of our camps. I think it was the September, maybe the October camp. I can't remember which one. But he was called up and he didn't get capped, and he has not been called up since. What are we doing? We're gonna sacrifice a Santiago Lopez, who seems to have quite the high ceiling, in my opinion. At the moment, is better than Flores, anyways. And we're gonna sacrifice him to bring in Flores, who rejected us a year or two ago and seemed pretty content in rejecting us. I don't know. Once again, maybe that's my pride speaking. I just don't like the fact that we're gonna be potentially integrating Flores into this setup after he rejected us. And that being said, if he does ever put on a Canadian jersey, I will still hope for the best. I hope, maybe he does well for us in the World Cup and what have you. I just personally, it leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And I also have a list of guys that I would have rather bring instead of Flores, so I'm going to list that out too. Santiago Lopez. Literally all the guys I just mentioned: Mark Anthony Kaye, Samuel Piette, James Pantemis, Jonathan Sirois, Garavin, Liam Fraser, Justin Smith, Tom McGill, Jamie Knight-LaBelle, Theo Corbeanu, Jason Russell-Rowe, Daniel Jebison. Then there's also Charles Anderson-Brim. Literally any Canadian playing in the CPL, any one of them, including but not limited to Noah Jensen, Ben Payton, Harry Payton, Kyle Becker, Tristan Borges, Brian Wright, Camargo. Oh my goodness, I'm going off the dome here. Fraser Aird, Sam Salter. You get my point that I'm making here. Dan Nimick. Can I list a couple more? Sean Rea, Thomas Mergiguer, Julian Altobelli. Just, guys that maybe wouldn't reject us on the first go around. Anyways, that's how I feel about that situation. Sorry, making myself laugh with that one. That's how I feel about that situation. Now we're going to get into the proper squad that we are, in fact, bringing. So let's get into that. Goalkeepers. There were two of the three were not surprises. Maxime Crepeau and Dane St. Clair. We're not shocked to see their names. If they're healthy, we know that they're getting called up. It's not surprising. Maxime Crepeau still, even though Dane St. Clair just did win the MLS Goalkeeper of the Year, I do think Maxime Crepeau should be our number one. I've said it time and time again. If you're new here, I will lay it out. I just think there's a different aura when Maxime Crepeau steps into the sticks for Canada as compared to any other goalkeeping option we have, Dane St. Clair included. He just has a steady, calming presence. I think he fits Marsh's system. He's decent with the ball at his feet. I don't think he's superb with the ball at his feet, but I think he's decent enough, and he is a phenomenal shot stopper. And me personally, what I look for in a goalkeeper is, one, are you a good shot stopper? If you're not, I don't really care how good you are with your feet. It doesn't matter to me. If you're a good shot stopper, okay, we're going to hope you're good with your feet. Bonus if you are. But are you a good shot stopper first and foremost? And I just think Maxime Crepeau, he just feels like the complete package, in my opinion. We've seen him time and time again look really good for us. I think he also has that great leadership quality as well that I think is underrated in his game. So yeah, for me, it's always Maxime Crepeau, as long as he's healthy. But obviously Jesse Marsh still has a lot of decisions to make, it seems like. So we'll see what it's like going into the World Cup. And I think a move away from Portland, which is looking very likely for Maxime Crepeau, I think that could do him really well, especially if he's going to go to another team and be number one. I think TFC would be a good spot for him. Not because I think TFC are a great team at the moment. They look like they're invested in the rebuild this time around. Time will tell. But they look like they're invested in a rebuild, and I think he will be the number one if he goes to TFC. And I just think, as I've said before, having him and Pantemis play at the same club kind of sucks because they're goalkeepers. You have one goalkeeper per game, So that's how I feel about Maxime Crepeau. Dane St. Clair, newly named MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. I do expect, by the way, for us to kind of see one of each of them in the friendly games that we're playing. But Dane St. Clair, Jesse Marsh seems to really like him. And, I mean, a lot of fans do as well, it seems. Not that I dislike him. I always feel like I'm always just, dogging on Dane St. Clair. I do think he's a good goalkeeper, guys. I just think when you have a guy like Maxime Crepeau, it should be Maxime Crepeau. I'm sorry. But Yeah, Dane St. Clair, I do think he's a quality goalkeeper, but I just think he needs to show it at the international level. There are just some guys that either, they're really good internationally and just kind of decent at club level, or there's guys that are really good at club level and then just kind of decent internationally. Dane St. Clair feels like to me he's a really good club level, and then just the when he gets to international level, it doesn't feel like he's the same goalkeeper, in my opinion. And I mean that in like the most respectful way possible, because I mean it because you see what he's done for Minnesota and you see how good he's been with Minnesota, and then you see him for Canada, and not that I think he's like terrible, he's unwatchable. I don't mean that. I just mean like he doesn't feel the same goalkeeper. I don't feel he's as steady for Canada and as rock solid for Canada as he is for the men's national team. That's my opinion. Third goalkeeper on this list, Owen Goodman. I think this is quite good. Owen Goodman could play for England. It looks like he's potentially declared for Canada now. I don't think it's officially official. I think it's Canada bringing him for a camp, and we're going to see. This is good. He is, of course, England born, but was raised in Canada for a number of years. He has said himself in interviews, it is his dream to play for Canada, not for England. I think that goes a long way in winning some fans over, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he's a goalkeeper. I think is definitely one to watch for the future. If Jesse Marsh is smart, he captizes him. I would honestly, you know what you have with Crepeau and St. Clair. I would play Owen Goodman in at least one, maybe both of these friendlies. And I've said this about our third choice goalkeepers the last couple of windows, when we brought in Jaden Hibbert, when we brought in James Pantemis. Of course, Pantemis then ended up going out injured, whatever. But I still said the same thing. I would try these guys out, just see like what can they do? Maybe Jaden Hibbert, James Pantemis, or Owen Goodman, or all three surprise us and go, holy crap, these guys are good too. Now we have even more headaches. Who do we play now? We have another guy that we could choose. I just think Owen Goodman potentially declaring for Canada, because I don't want to say he's 100% declared, because he could still, maybe next window he gets called for England. You know what I mean? So I don't want to say he's 100% declared. I don't fully know. I haven't seen any official confirmation on being declared. And I know that sounds ridiculous, right? Well, Sam, he's in the Canadian camp. That doesn't mean he's declared. It just means with the FIFA rules right now, he's a Canadian player at the moment. Kind of like Flores. He declared for Mexico, and he could be playing for Canada still. So, I'm not holding my breath on it, is my point. But I think that this is a huge get if it's a get, you know what I mean? Really excited about Owen Goodman being here. I honestly, fun little story here. I was looking at the squad when it was released, and for whatever reason, Owen Goodman did not register in my head. Like, I was looking at the goalkeepers, I was like, oh, Maxime Crepeau, Dan St. Clair, Owen Goodman. Then I went down to the defense. I was like, oh, nice, all the defenders. Then I went to the midfielders and the attackers. It literally took me, like, it got to a point of where this was like hours later, where I was like, oh my God, we brought Owen Goodman. I literally didn't even know. Like, I knew, but it didn't click. It didn't register for me. Just a funny little story here on the Maple Footy podcast. But yeah, anyways, excited for Owen Goodman. Would like to see him get a chance. I don't think he does, but would like to see it. Moving into defenders here. I feel like there's no huge shocks in the defense, so this one might be quick. Even the new face in the defense, this was leaked like days ago. We all knew Alfie Jones was going to be coming into the squad here. What bothers me a little bit about the Alfie Jones thing, and once again, going back to if he puts on the badge, if he's going to represent Canada, and I'm glad that he selected Canada, it always just reminds me of old Canada. Like, we're getting the guys that weren't good enough to play for like a different nation. So we get him because his grandmother or grandfather was Canadian. And hey, you know what? I'm glad that he's deciding to choose Canada. Thank you. Appreciate it. But it just reminds me of like old Canada, where it was like, oh, do you have a Canadian passport from like 82 years ago because no one wants to play for Canada? Come on down. That's how it was like in the 80s and 90s. Me speaking like I was there. But that's, look into our history. That's what it was. It was the 80s, 90s. Guys that, they weren't born or raised in Canada, And then it was just like, oh wait, my great grandmother's best friend's aunt was Canadian. I could qualify as Canadian. It just bothers me because like I felt like as a program we moved past this, and that's not me saying shun all duels. 100% no. Also, Canada's built on immigration. Like, I think it's great to embrace that aspect of it. Because like look at some of the duels we have acquired under Jesse Marsh alone. Nico Seeger, Promise David, Daniel Jebison. I know we've had a couple more, but that's just off the top of my dome. I don't have an issue with us acquiring dual nations. I just think I don't want to say a shame because I don't think it's a shame to acquire a good player. I just think it reminds me a little bit of the old program of like, oh, like, we have to look elsewhere to get some of our good players. When we have good guys doing good things right now, I feel like it just reminds me a little bit of old program. And once again, I'm a fan of the duels. They were they wanted to declare for Canada. I think that's great. It just kind of is reminiscent of old Canada, I guess, like the old Canadian men's national team program. That's where I'll kind of stop that. But regardless, hope he does well. I will still root for him, of course, because he is choosing to play for Canada. I think that there is also something to be said in that he's choosing to play for Canada. I think there's something to be said there as well. But yeah, hope he does well with us. I just think I don't want to say it's a step backwards because I don't think it is, but it just, makes me go, oh, like we've done this before and we weren't really that good when we did it, Now we've been building this program and building these guys and acquiring duels smartly and, guys that, could play for other teams and they're choosing to play for Canada. And that's where I kind of see it, but regardless, we'll move on from that. And look at our other defenders. Richard Larea, no surprise here that he's in. Good season with TFC. Was nominated for Comeback Player of the Year, which was won by former TFC player Nick Hagland. Shout out Nick Hagland for all the TFC fans listening. I'm a fan of Nick Hagland as well. But yeah, Richard Larea, you know what you get with Richie. He's going to be versatile. I would like to see him deployed at right back, although I do think that Seagear will probably be deployed at right back and maybe give Zorhan. Sorry, I had to cough again. Maybe give Zorhan Basong. Once again, Maple Footy is home of the Zorhan Basong fan club. Maybe give him a shot at left back. I don't want to say I don't think that's going to happen, but it seems like Marsh really likes to use Larea as the left back and Seager as the right back right now, so that's kind of what I'm expecting to see. Derek Cornelius, as I've said in the last few squad breakdowns, it feels like this is his defense right now. He's, as I've stated in the past, I think if everyone's healthy and available, our back line looks like Alphonso Davies, Derek Cornelius, Moise Bombito, Alistair Johnston as the back four. Right now, Derek Cornelius is the only one that's healthy of those four. Shout out injuries. Gotta love them. No, you don't. I actually hate them. But as I've said, it just really does feel like this is Cornelius's back line at the moment. I think he has shown as well that he can be a leader, that he can be quite good as the main guy at our defense. I thought he's had a very good 2 windows now without, his typical boys around him. Make myself laugh. In September, I thought he had a very good 2 games, one against Wales, that was the Romania one. And then last window against Australia and Colombia, I thought he looked good as well. I just think that you're seeing him as a mature defender. I always credit his footballing IQ as well. I think that he has such an underrated IQ. I think he just gets it. And I think this is a good time to see Derek Cornelius continue to step up, continue to mature, continue to grow. And I think it's really good. Joel Waterman, one of the guys that's impressed me a lot this calendar year with the men's national team. I think he's looked pretty good when he's been called upon for us. And I know I've been a critic of him. I will not shy away from that, but I also won't shy away from giving him his flowers when he's deserved them, and he's deserved them this year. Let's be honest here. I think he's had a good year in the red. And him being on the list, I think he's a good, solid choice to have in the squad, in the lineup. A good also combatant. Am I using that word right? Combatant of the CPL, alum of the CPL, I guess. So he's showing what this league can do and has produced as well. Enjoying his football in Chicago as well. So yeah, I'm okay with Joel Waterman being here. I know, as I said in the past, I've been a critic of him, but I'm man enough to hold my hands up and say, you know what, you've earned my praise. And yeah, I honestly, right now, with all the injuries as well, I don't see how you don't take him. With all the injuries that we have currently, if everybody was healthy, maybe there's a bit more of a debate. But right now, with all the injuries we have, all the guys available, I don't see how you don't take Joel Waterman. So yeah, Joel Waterman, you've made me eat my words. So there you are. Zorhan Bassong, the Zorhan Bassong fan club, as you know, Maple Footy, just always happy to see Zorhan Bassong in the squad. Feels like one of those guys that's really fighting for a spot at the World Cup. Like, I feel like a lot of guys, if healthy, they're going to be there. Zoran Bassong, I really feel like he is fighting to be on that plane, and I think you see that every time he plays. He looks up for it. He looks ready to go. He looks always just ready, I guess, is the best way to put it. And is always going to put his best foot forward, is always going to try, and is, I think, always going to give you a bare minimum, a decent performance. And I mean bare minimum. Like, I think he gives you better than a decent performance. But you're going to get a good performance. And also another guy that is versatile, can play basically anywhere along the back line, and was implemented as a central midfielder as well at times this season for Sporting Kansas City. So not a bad guy to have in your pocket. I was really stoked to see Kamal Miller in this squad. He was left out last time until Moise Bombito got injured, so Kamal Miller was a last-minute addition. As you know, I know a lot of people have kind of turned on Kamal Miller. I still think he's our third best center back. I think you got Bombito, Cornelius, then Kamal Miller. He's also one cap shy of 50, so I'd really like to see him get that 50th cap. I think that's a huge honor, and he's done more than enough to earn that cap. Even if you get him off for 5 minutes in one of these friendlies, I think he's earned that moment. I think he's earned that praise. I don't think he's a Jesse Marsh player. I think that's been made well clear since Jesse Marsh has come in, and that's fine. All coaches see it differently. I understand that. But I just think it's going to be very tough the next few months for Kamal with the Canadian men's national team. He's no longer an automatic call-up, which I think is a pretty big mistake. I know a lot of people would disagree with me on that, but I just think he offers you so much, and I think it's a shame that we're kind of seeing him kind of in and out of the squad. But I'm very happy to see him here. I'm just really hoping that over the course of these next 2 games, he gets that 50th cap, because in my opinion, he's well more than earned it. Finally, I have Nico Seeger listed as a defender. Don't know if Marsh is going to deploy him as a defender or a midfielder. I think he's great. I think he's got a lot of potential. I would still like to see him deployed as a midfielder. But obviously with the Johnston injury, it feels like Seeger's our right back when Johnston is hurt. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Although I would like to see him in the midfield, I just don't think it's quite realistic at this moment in time. Even though I do think that you could just put Richie Lorea at the right back and then Bassong as the left back, but I'm not sure Jesse Marsh is going to do that. So that's why I say Seeger's probably our right back. Moving into the midfield here. Mathieu Chouanier, currently in and out of the LAFC starting 11, which is a shame. I think he should be one of those guys that's starting pretty much anytime he's healthy. But I'm a big fan of Chouanier. If you've listened to me, you know I'm a fan of Chouanier. I quite like him. I think he's just such a good midfielder. I think he's one of our, in form for Canada the last probably a year now. He's been like my favorite one, I think, in form for the Red. Just because he does so much, both on and off the ball, and possession and whatnot. I just quite like him. As I said, I think it's a shame that he doesn't play, I think, as much as he probably should. Not to say he doesn't play, but yeah, I just think he feels like he should be just always starting if he's healthy, but that has not been the case. Stefan Estacchio, a guy that's found it hard at club level this season. I think it needs a move away from Porto. No disrespect to Porto. I think they've done him really well. I think he has also done them very well. I just think a player of his quality, especially for our national team, we need to see the best of Stefan Estacchio week in, week out at club level, because I think that the more he plays at club level, you're going to see him better for Canada. Just naturally, you're playing more. I think that's just kind of how it works. But regardless, last window, I thought he had a very good window. He only played the Colombia game, and I thought he looked exceptional. I thought he was the best player on the pitch that night. He looked great. So, maybe we're going to see him do it again where he hasn't played a whole ton at club level, and he's going to turn up and just be dominant in the midfield against Ecuador and Venezuela. So, yeah, regardless, though, he needs to move away come January. I think it needs to be to a decent level. I don't want to see him going to some random league with some fourth tier team and you're like, what? How did we get here? I think he would crazy. I think he'd suit Syria. I'm not saying, starter for the top team, even though, honestly, looking at the talent in Serie A at the moment, I honestly don't see why he couldn't be a starter in Serie A. I mean, that league is right now in the pits for talent, and I say that as a fan of Serie A. But right now, there are quality players, don't get me wrong, but there's not really many midfielders in that league where I go, yeah, he's head and shoulders better than Stefan Estacchio. And maybe I'm super biased, but he just also, I think, just suits that style of play. It's a bit slower, possession-based, a little bit more defensive-minded. I think he suits it just perfectly. So, hey, Stefan, between you and me, let me be your agent, and I'll get you a good Serie A team. AC Milan, Inter Milan. Maybe you can buddy up with Jonathan David. I hear Roma's really nice. I'm just saying. But we'll move on from the jokes and we'll go into Ishmael Kone, a Canadian midfielder who is in fact playing in the Serie A and is currently thriving. I think we're seeing a very good iteration of Ishmael Kone. He's been getting a lot of game time with Sassuolo, which I think is friggin' massive for his development going forward. I think that's absolutely huge. Because my issue, not that it's been an issue with Ishmael Kone, my complaint around Ishmael Kone has always been he looks good for Canada, but he doesn't play week in, week out with his clubs. And that's been the case even with Watford. He started to come on with Watford towards the end of his time there, playing week in, week out. And then he moved, of course, to the nightmare that was Marseille. We don't talk about it, it's fine. But then even when he got loaned out to Rennes, he wasn't playing week in, week out, and when he'd get on, it would be for 20 minutes, Now with Sassuolo, he seems to be in the starting 11 a lot. He seems to be getting bare minimum 75 minutes per game. He's looking good. Sassuolo seems to like him. The fans have really taken to him. So that's always a good sign. The club likes you. The fan likes you. He's a quality player. We've been knowing this. I think it's great. I think it's great for him. I think this is absolutely great. I think, as I kind of said with Estacchio, the more they play, the better they are going to be. Jonathan Osorio, I don't care. I'm dying on this hill. Jonathan Osorio, as long as he's playing, should be a call-up for the men's national team. I don't care. Fight me on it. This is my boy. That's my bear. That's my goat. Don't even fight me about it. I don't care. I don't care. As Ricky Gervais once said, I don't care. I don't care. Yes, he's not as, I think, influential as he used to be. I do still think that he has something to offer this team. I think he's a good guy to bring in off the bench for the last 20 minutes of game. You're trying to see a result or trying to chase a result. He's good in possession. He's got a great footballing IQ. He's got a good pass on him. He's pretty good in the attack, pretty good to contribute defensively. I just think he's a good guy to have, especially also from a leadership aspect. I think he's a great guy to have just in the locker room, and I'm also really hoping that he hits that 100 caps. The more time goes on, the less likely it looks, because he doesn't really seem to be getting used a whole ton. Regardless, I digress. I want him to get that 100 caps. So, Jesse Marsh, make it happen. The best Saliba in world football, Nathan Saliba. Another guy who's quite enjoying his time at club level with Anderlecht. I think this was a great move for him. He's really developing. Once again, also playing. So I don't have a whole ton to say about Saliba apart from the fact that I'm really happy he's here. I think he's got a huge future with the men's national team. I just think he's also a complete midfielder. As I've kind of always compared him, he feels like if you mixed Samuel Piet and I know this is a crazy shout, but Ruben Loftus-Cheek, it just feels like he's got the defensive and distribution of a Samuel Piet, and then also like that ability to ball carry quite like a Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I know that is an insane comparison to make, but trust me, it makes sense. Moving into the attack, no real surprises here, but a happy inclusion that we will get to. But first, Tajon Buchanan, I mean, he's just one of those guys where it's like, yeah, if he's healthy, he's coming. It doesn't matter. He could be in the worst form of his life. He's going to come because you know that Tajon Buchanan can be a game changer. I don't think we have a player as good as him at what he can do. I know that he is criticized for like his final decision making and whatnot, and that is fair for sure. But I just don't think that there's a player that can do what he does. I think on his day, he's quite frankly just one of those players that's just so much fun to watch. And yeah, we just don't have a player like him in our ranks, so you got to bring him. Ali Ahmed, another one. Happy to see. He's got just such a creative playmaker mindset that makes him such a unique, I think, weapon at our disposal. Because he may not be the guy that's going to score a goal, and that's fair, but he's going to be the guy that probably has his fingerprints on the goal. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he probably didn't score it, but if you watch the playback, he probably had something to do with it, as he has with the Whitecaps all throughout this season. And wish him the best of luck throughout the next few rounds of the MLS playoffs. Jaden Nelson, his Whitecap compatriot. This is a strange one, and let me explain. I love Jaden Nelson. I'm super happy to see Jaden Nelson here. I think he's had a great season. I know there are some people that aren't the biggest fans of Jaden Nelson, which, by the way, I think you're crazy if that's what you think. All love. He hasn't really been playing for the Whitecaps recently. And bring it back to like a guy like Theo Corbeanu, who has been playing. It's just interesting to me because he doesn't seem like a Jesse Marsch guy because he wasn't used in the last window. He was barely used in the Gold Cup, which I thought was ludicrous. Was he really used against Wales and Romania as well? I don't really believe so. My point being is he just doesn't feel like a Marsch quote unquote player. So it's weird that now that he's not playing, he's getting selected still. When he was getting selected, he was playing a lot and looking really good. So it just makes me kind of scratch my head and go, okay. Like I said, very happy that Jay Nelson is here because I personally am a big fan of him. But then when you kind of sit back and kind of look at these factors, you're kind of like, does it really make sense? Maybe it does, and maybe I'm missing something. But with that being said, I hope he does get a shot in this window because I do think that he is just one of those players that if you do give him a shot, I think he's going to run with it. Look at what he's done with the Whitecaps this season. Every time they've given him a shot, he's friggin' ran with it. And in Canada, we haven't done that yet. So give him a shot. It's the friendlies. Who cares? Like, give him a chance, you know? I digress. Junior Hoylett. I'm so happy to see Hoylett here. He is one of those players that, to me, as long as he's playing, he should be in this squad. He's that good. We still, even though Hoylett is UNC status at 35, going on 36 very soon. I think he's 36 come the new year, actually. Regardless, going to be 36 within the next, 6 months. We don't have a player that can do what Junior Hoylett can do. I've long said he is a 30-minute, at this stage of his career, I should say, because there was a time in his career where he could do it for a whole 90. At this stage in his career, give him 20, 30 minutes. He can change a game. He just can. He's got that quality. He's got that veteran instinct in him. He's a great guy to have in the locker room. He's been around, for years. He knows what it takes. Bring him every single time as long as he's healthy. Once again, Jesse Marsch doesn't seem to bring him every time. And okay, that's his prerogative. I get that. Me personally, Sam Little of the Maple Footy Podcast, Junior Hoylett, are you healthy? Yes. Okay, then you're coming. Sorry, that's how I feel about Junior Hoylett. I just think he is that good. He's that big of a game changer. He's that big of an influence for us. both on and off the pitch. I just think he's a non-negotiable. You bring a Junior Hoylett. That's my opinion. So I'm very happy to see him here, is my point. I read his name and I was like, that's friggin' great. I'm really happy to see Hoylett here. Strikers, Tani Oluwaseyi. No shock here. Hot off of a hat trick in the Copa del Rey. He had a good season with Minnesota. He kind of falls into the same, as I've said before, falls into the same camp as a Day in St. Clair. Can do it at club level, but I feel like he hasn't reached that same level at the international level and has a boatload of chances to have done so. And he'll be the first one to tell you that, I think. I think right now as well, there's a lot of competition for those striker spots. I'd like to see Jesse Marsch change it a little bit. Let's see what other guys can do in this window. I do think that we're going to see a lot of Tanny. We're going to see a lot of Jonathan David in this window. But I'd like to see him implement Promise David and Theo Bair for even like let them start a game. That's how I feel. That's how I think we should be using these friendlies. But well, I don't get paid to make those decisions. Jonathan David, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, hasn't had a great start to life with Juventus, but apparently Spalletti just came in, was very impressed by Jonathan David, so maybe it's going to be a nice little turn for Jonathan David, but a healthy Jonathan David, a one-legged Jonathan David is getting selected for the Canadian men's national team. He just is. He's, in my opinion, still, regardless of the slow start to life in Turin, still one of the best strikers in the world, straight up. And you're just going to always select him. Everything we do in the final third flows through him. He's too important for us not to bring. So, yes, he hasn't been great this season, but you're not going to bring Jonathan David. Kyle Larin, people still don't want to see Kyle Larin. I don't even care. Keep on bringing Kyle Larin, Jesse. That's what I say. That's what I say to the people that don't want Kyle Larin. I'm a fan of Kyle Larin. I do understand his best days are probably behind him at this moment in time. Has had a difficult start in Feyenoord, but has slowly, seemingly been racking up more minutes, which is good. And I'm a fan of Kyle Larin. I still think right now, it should still be him and Jonathan David. I know, don't shoot me. Just off of everything we've seen from our other strikers, Jonathan David, of course, yes, 100%. It's going to be Jonathan David. Then it's who's Jonathan David's partner. I still think it's Kyle Larin at this moment. Yes, he's not scoring the chances that he used to. Yes, he hasn't looked great on Jesse Marsch. But none of our other strikers have looked great on Jesse Marsch. So Kyle Larin kind of just falls into we've seen him do it for Canada before, so he's kind of earned the right to kind of start, I think, ahead of the other guys. Like Tanny's been given chance after chance after chance on Jesse Marsch. Hasn't really taken the ball and run with it. Theo Bair, Promise David haven't really been given proper shots under Jesse Marsch, and when they haven't really set themselves apart from their competition. That being said, they also have been given like 10 to 15 minute cameos, so it's kind of hard to judge them. But still, regardless, Kyle Larin then, in my opinion, by default, should be Jonathan David's strike partner at this moment in time until Jesse Marsch gives the other guys a chance to prove themselves if they should or shouldn't be, which will bring us to the other guys, Promise David and Theo Bair. I would like to see both of them start at least one game here. Let's see what they can do. We know what the other three can do for the national team. We still don't really know what Promise David can do. I know he's got 7 caps now, 2 goals. We still haven't seen the best of Promise David because we haven't seen a whole ton of Promise David with the men's national team. He hasn't really started for us. When he's gotten his appearances, they've been, once again, 5, 10-minute, 15-minute cameos. You're not going to see the best of a striker in that amount of time. Theo Bair, really happy to see Theo Bair here because he's had a great start to life in Switzerland. 8 goals in all competitions this season. I'm a big Theo Bair fan. He's just such a likable, you want to root for him. He's been through the hardships in his career, just the story around Theo Bair, I think, is great. And I think that he's shown on the pitch now, both with Motherwell and now in Switzerland. He has shown he can pop goals in if you're going to give him a chance. So why not give him a chance in these friendlies? Let's see Promise David. Let's see Theo Bair play these games. We know what Jonathan David, we know what Kyle Larin, we know what Tanny can all do. We know. So let's see what these two can do. Maybe start Jonathan David and Theo Bair in the first game, then Jonathan David and Promise David in the second game, or start Theo Bair with Kyle Larin. Any mismatch of the strikers, but at least if Promise David and Theo Bair start one of the two games, I think that's a good little way to see, okay, let's see what they can do. These are friendlies. These are what these are for. We're trying to form our World Cup squad. Let's see what these guys can do. But this will bring us to an end with this little squad analysis. Hoping this window we can at least score a goal. That would be nice. We didn't score a goal last window at all. So it'll be nice to see us score a goal in this one. But as per usual, you know the drill. After each game, the following day or two, I will upload my game debrief analysis, whatever you want to call it, for each of our friendlies, both the first one against Ecuador. So we play Ecuador on Thursday, November 13th. I will be at that game. It's at BMO Field. Shout out. Let's go. And then on November 18th, the Tuesday, we face Venezuela. And is it Fort Lauderdale? I think. It's in America again. I think it's Fort Lauderdale. Regardless, doesn't matter where it is. We're still going to do a recap on that one as well. Really looking forward to it. This is the last window of the year. Let's end it with a bang. Let's hope that we can get 2 wins from 2, score some goals, play some fun footy, and hope for the best. Let's see what our boys can do. Hope that some guys get a shot. Like I said, Jaden Nelson would be great to see. Theo Bear. Would like to see just also Hoylett get in there. Let's see what he can still do. Jonathan Osorio, just really selfishly to get him the cap. Let's see what the new call-ups can do. Alfie Jones and Owen Goodman. Let's see what they can bring to the table as well. So yeah, looking forward to it as we always are, and I hope you are too. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you disagree with any of my takes or you agree, let me know. Comment them if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on other platforms, DM me at Maple Footy Pod everywhere. And yeah, we'll have some fun. Let's get interactive. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed doing it. I love doing the Canadian stuff, man. It's just the best. And yeah, until next time. Cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.